Okay, you're good to go.
All right, it is 2:30. I will call the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order. Present are Finance Director Brian Crum, Deputy Finance Director Amber Cutlip, Mayor Steve Shag, myself, Garland Gates. For the record, Councilman Martin is not with us today. His mother-in-law has passed away, and the services are this afternoon. And I know that everyone here extends their sympathies to the Martin family. So, well, let us begin. End of the year, Director Crum. Let's go to the last page. That's our new page one.
That's right. Okay. So December was kind of a down month compared to last year. We brought in 229,000 compared to 261,000. You know, it's December's a weird month anyway, because there's nothing really particularly due that month other than just monthly withholdings from the prior month. So, you know, being down 12% from last year, really about 12% from the 3-year average, is not great, but it's not all that surprising, I guess. This being from the new guy who's only been here a year. But we finished the year down 3.36 from last year. We're down 0.78% from the 3-year average. So with all things considered, I can't complain with that number. That's not overly terrible. It's going to be interesting going forward because I think that withholding will kick back up, and we can talk about that a little more when we do the breakdown between individual.
Sure.
But at the same time, I'm sure business returns will be down and probably individual returns will be down next year. So it's going to be an interesting 2021, that's for sure. But, for everything that happened, being down 0.78% from the average for the last few years is pretty darn good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting if you have a chance to talk with your counterparts in the area to see what, how their income tax ended for 2020.
That's a good idea. I've got to contact a few of them about a couple other things anyway. So I'll bring that question up as well.
Well, yeah, of course, now the ball then is in your court because, as a magisterial duty, you get to estimate the income, not just for income tax, but for however many 4 dozen funds we have.
Mm-hmm.
Some are easier than others. But I think you're right. I think we need to anticipate that individual taxes, individual will be down and business will be down. The question is down by how much?
Yeah.
And I think that's where that conversation or those conversations with other directors of finance will be helpful for Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to make that estimation unilaterally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, well, anything is only as good as the source. So
Right, that's true too. Yep.
But it'll be interesting to see. I'm trying to think about other places in the area that are not the county seat, because the county seat is just very different.
Mm-hmm.
So, Galion is not a county seat. Willard is not a county seat. Bellevue is not. Ontario's not, but Ontario is very different because of its retail.
I would not want to be Ontario right now.
Yeah, Ontario doesn't compare to anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, that we'll know what your estimate is, and only too soon. So
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the other part of the income tax, which I think is on page 2. Is it?
Might be. Yes, page 2.
Okay, let's look at the breakdown here.
I did average, or I did add a column for a percentage of the 3-year average or the prior 3-year average. So
Okay.
that is 2020 versus the average of 2017 through 2019. You'll see that our individual tax returns are up 1.83% on last year. They're actually up 14% on that average. And it took me a while to figure this out. Because in 2018, I think the individual receipts were 680,000, and the year before that they were 685. So they were way down. And I got starting to think about it, and I know we changed the credit that is accepted to other cities, but that would be backwards. That should hurt us, not help us. And honestly, I think it all started when Sarah came in to the tax department and really started trying to collect back taxes and kind of change some things around. That's the only thing I can think of is, so I got to give her credit. I think the experience that she had from some of the other cities she worked for really paid off and has really helped our individual income tax collection. There's definitely something I might be missing something, and if anybody has any thoughts, but that's the only logical explanation I can think of right now. So that's the only one that is significantly different from the 3-year average. Business returns are up 9% from last year, 6.5% over the 3-year average. I'm sure that those are going to go down in 2021, especially since the federal government changed the IRS's position for them on the deductibility of the expenses associated with the PPP money. And so they are allowed to expense those now. So companies that were breaking even or doing a little better will now probably show losses because they're going to add those expenses in. So that's going to hurt. The individual income tax, it all depends on how much people were on unemployment last year. And that's something I'm going to have to really try and figure out. I might try to reach out to Job and Family Services and see if they can give an estimate for the county or something, because we're somewhat insulated from the unemployment because a lot of our big companies were still working, but a lot of people who worked in Ontario probably spent some time on unemployment last year. So that's going to be an interesting thing. The withholding, obviously we're down 6.23% from last year and about 5.5% from the average. I would say that 2021 should probably be similar to 2020, if maybe not a little better on withholding. And my thought for that is, at this point, all of our manufacturers are everybody's up and running. It doesn't appear to me that there's going to be another shutdown. I know that the school board was just talking about how they were going to try to keep the kid in the rest of the year. And so I doubt that many of our businesses will be closing if the schools can stay open. And of course, the vaccine is, as we found throughout the day today with the phones ringing off the hook at City Hall, that there's a lot of people lining up. And so I think that'll help a lot. So if everybody's back at work, then, hopefully we'll see maybe even a slight uptick from 2020's numbers. I don't think it'll be anywhere near where 2019 was withholding wise, but hopefully we're in a decent spot on that side of things.
Okay.
All my random predictions.
Well, there's a portmanteau, and the word is guesstimate. And it's based on some facts, but again, it's an educated guess, an educated estimate. And everyone's crystal ball is a little cloudy right about now. So,
Mhm.
which I've said before. Anyways, let's take a look at page one, the combined financial statement.
Okay. So the general fund, it's an interesting story. You take a quick peek at it and you say, wow, we're up $373,000 for the year. We are the most amazing city in the world. And we are, like, everybody did great. Keeping expenses down and that this year, but those numbers are definitely a little misleading. Yes, we do, which I'm really happy. We have after encumbrances, we have 1,248,000 to start 2021. I'm really, really happy about that. But the reason we got there, that $372,000 above the game, or above break even, of that, on the revenue side, we see 104% of our anticipated revenue. Well, 250,000 of that was workers' comp reimbursements or distributions.
What was that number again?
It's about 250,000, give or take a few $100. So that really helped our general fund revenues, and it's going to help all the other funds that have employees as well. We did break that out in the same percentage that we pay our workers' comp expenses.
Was that 250,000? Was that total, or was that the general fund?
That's in the general fund.
Okay, general fund. All right.
I can get you the total after we get off of here. I'll email you later.
Or just, send it to everyone or include it in the packets Monday.
Yeah. Now, I do know that going forward, workers' comp does not anticipate sending out any major distributions this year. I did read that they're going to reduce the premiums. So yeah, it probably won't be nearly as much as we want, but it's something. Yeah.
This is a pattern for workers' comp for decades. Is they overbill and then they reimburse. For crying out loud, guys, we will gladly pay our premium, a realistic fact-based premium. But, don't calculate a premium and then add on, I'm not saying they do this, but don't add on 15% or 20%, only to turn around as if you're Santa Claus in December of the year.
It's true. I agree 100%. So, they have said that they're not going to essentially overbill us this year. I'll know more. I got to fill out the true up report in the next couple weeks, I think, and so hopefully I'll know more what our premiums will be. Not by Monday night, but by the first meeting in February. But so we kind of got lucky with that 250,000 in that fund, and as well as revenues across the board, they're all going to be up because of workers' comp. On the other side of things, we see our expenses are only 80% of what was appropriated. And those are down somewhat because of careful planning, but also there's 220,000 that we took from the CARES Act money to reimburse the police and fire wage items. And so that was essentially a negative expense item for that fund. So, and I'll talk more about the CARES Act and what's left in there when we get down that far. Okay. But so you got 220,000 there plus 250,000 from BWC. So there's $470,000 swing. So without those funds, we would have been in the hole about $100,000 for the year, which, everything that would have been okay. We had enough cushion in the fund to absorb that without a major problem. But it's definitely something to consider as we're preparing for 2021, is that, right, we didn't do as well as it looks at first glance. But that money helped. We ended up in the black for the year, and we're starting really well for 2021. So I can't argue with the general fund at all. in
Yeah,
that.
those one-time things, we're glad to have them. It's, dare I say, it's like, your rich aunt or uncle who passes away and you find out that you are, named in the will.
Mhm.
Well, you do the happy dance for the
Mm-hmm.
time being, but bless her heart, your good old Aunt Sally only passes away once, and so you're not going to get, unless she set up a trust fund for you, but
Yeah.
Councilman
So
Gates, and Brian, and just to throw out that seed thought, I think we all have over the years discussed, should we have like a rainy day fund, general fund rainy day fund? And I think it's always been our understanding, we had a certain comfort level with the general fund at the end of a year, whether it be 300 or 400, $500,000. And we kind of almost in the back of our minds figure the rest of that is sort of our built-in rainy day dynamic in that general fund total. And I just wonder one of these days if we ought to somehow create a true rainy day fund and then add to it on a regular basis. So we don't have to answer that question today. We're just throwing it out there. Brian and Amber and I have talked about that a little bit, and I think we have talked about that in some of our finance committee meetings. So, and this may be an awkward year to do it. I don't know. Or is this the year that we set aside a little and begin to add to that? So that's just a thought to think on in the future, near future.
And another thing, you don't have to go back too many years to find where there were monies transferred from the general fund to the street fund, which were used for street paving.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is a little different, not the same as you're saying there, as as a set aside as a rainy day fund.
Mm-hmm.
But the general fund, used to support other things besides the general fund itself.
General operations, yeah.
I know that we're doing transfers to police and fire pension because the real estate tax we get from that is not enough to pay it. I think we also send, some monies to police equipment or fire equipment. Fire equipment, of course, has its monies as revenue through the contracts, but again, you don't have to go back too many years to find where there were transfers, particularly in support of the street fund.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a discussion to have. What do we want that to look like, and what would we anticipate using general funds? But I'm with Brian. I'm glad we're going into the year with that cushion, but we know that cushion has been aided by exactly as you described, Councilman Gates, one-time revenue sources.
Right. Okay, let's move along.
okay, nothing really too notable with the paving and such. Those funds are up a little bit. We did, as we kind of talked, we had kind of paused projects and then restarted sort of mid-year and kind of cut back a little bit. So it's not surprising to see those funds up a little bit. The health department is up almost $195,000 for the year, with after encumbrances about $481,000. They've received various CARES Act funding and such, and now we're using that to provide some services with some vaccines and such. So that's kind of how they end up for the year. The parks, they're down about 22,000. That's was sort of all kind of well, some of it was planned. They purchased a pickup truck earlier in the year, and they replaced a tractor. I want to say the pool was down about 15,000 for the year, which is not surprising. It struggles to break even anyway on its own, and starting late didn't help. But so it's not surprising they're down a little bit, but they still have 103,000 in the bank, and so they're in a comfortable place. Nothing too terribly notable through most of the 200s here. Guess that kind of takes us to the Fund 283, the local coronavirus relief fund. After encumbrances, there's still $24,558 in that fund. Amber and I had discussed, well, we talked at the last finance committee meeting about one day after we received a lot more money and about 2 days before it was all supposed to be spent that okay, well, we got this extra money, what are we going to do with it? So we were going to move it all to the police and fire wages. Since they extended it for an entire year, we felt that maybe we'll leave a little bit of money in that fund. So instead we transferred an additional, I want to say $50,000 to the police and fire wages in addition to the 172 we originally did, which is still under my calculations for the period during the shutdown when their job descriptions changed drastically. So I'm still very comfortable with our decision to do that. But we have 25,000 because, there was such a rush as far as getting quotes and everything to purchase all these things by the end of the year that, there were a few that were underquoted and a few overquoted. So we have a balance in there. We have the rest of the year to spend it. We can still spend it for police and fire wages for a portion of their salaries that have changed due to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So that will continue throughout 2021, and we'll expend all of that this year. So we have capital improvements ended up the year down about $104,000. They still have 114,000 left in the bank. That's not surprising. We kind of decided, okay, well, let's go ahead and continue with these projects after all was said and done, even though we expected to maybe not be able to transfer quite as much money into the fund. So that's not altogether a shocker to me. More of the street stuff, we kind of been over that. The police court construction fund 354, that ended the year with about 1.5 million in it. As I said at the last council meeting, we did the very last instant get that money back from BNY Mellon. So, which is kind of why the percentage of income is up a little bit. We recorded that as income when it came in, and expenses will be up a little bit because of that as well, but they're a wash. So we're in good shape with that. I look forward to see how that fund does with the new bond situation. Utilities, we've been having trouble with sewer and water. Sewer ended up being down 137,000 for the year with an ending cash balance of 350,000. So they're still okay. And water was kind of the opposite. They ended up about almost just shy of 90,000, and they've got a $200,000 or $198,000 balance. Once again, particularly with those two funds, well, and electric, is we do have to remember that we got some money from workers' comp to help with those. So those would have all shown a bit more of a either a bigger loss or a smaller net income had it not been for those funds. So we'll still have to keep close eye on water and sewer, especially. We do have a bit of a comfort with the electric fund being 4.7 million, but that's I don't know how much more we want that to drop. I need to speak with Mr. Ensman a little bit about his comfort level as far as that fund, because obviously it writes some pretty big checks. There's a lot coming in, a lot going out there. So that's for our utilities.
And the sewer fund alone, we had 44,000 of that was the workers' comp refund.
So they lucked out.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Normally the refund would have been right around 4,500.
Yeah. Whew. Wow. So yeah, both those funds really lucked out for those worker comp premiums. And I'll bring that up with with Mr. Ensman, just so that he is well aware that that wasn't all service revenue that created those situations.
Yeah, we've either been gnashing our teeth or holding our breath about water and sewer for about the past 3 years. It would be nice to get to a point where, we don't have to worry about those two funds.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, obviously I still have a significant amount of learning to do in this role, but we have control over that revenue source. So it seems like every time we adjust it, there's some other requirement or major repair or something that seems to keep it down. But
Well, we are paying off the final payment for the water treatment plant improvement, right? That's the first part of this month, Brian, or?
yeah, that came out on the 4th.
Yeah, but that's out of a different fund. That's out of the 501 fund, not the 500 fund.
Yeah, it's not out of the operational fund.
That's true. Yeah. Well, good news in 501.
Yeah, that's right.
Seriously, for another charge.
Yeah, we have kind of, and for good reason, redirected those funds.
And something just popped into my mind, and since the plant is paid off now, we want to have that fund continue because there are other things that go wrong. But is there a possibility to reduce what customers are paying into 501 and redirect it to 500 so that it's a
wash on their bill.
a zero sum game for Joe and Mary Citizen who get their water bill every month.
Well, we sort of did that, right, with the asset management. That's
Yeah, the asset management, I think it is a little less than
it is. Mhm.
collecting. So that started this month in January. But that'd be something to bring up with perhaps the utility committee, which is next.
Mhm. Mhm. I think John's got a close eye on it, and maybe he does have some ideas in regard to those two operations.
Okay. Anything else on the front page here?
Nothing really too significant. Police equipment ended up about $30,000 for the year. The biggest reason for that is we had appropriated a pickup truck for the department, and then speaking with Chief Combs, we kind of decided to table that with everything going on in the economy. So that's why they ended up with a pretty decent increase in funds. But yeah, hospitalization. We did end up the year 222,000. So that's helpful, and hopefully that fund stays healthy, and then maybe later on in 2021 we can get a partial month. Forgot the word.
Of whatever, suspension, whatever.
Yeah, so
a freebie.
Yeah. So all in all, we ended up the year about revenues were 90% of what we had appropriated, and expenses were 80%. We ended the year with 14,790,000, almost 92,000 in the bank. And cash balance, or I'm sorry, after encumbrances, it's about 13.2 million. So I made it through year one.
Yeah. What a wild year, wild ride.
Yeah, that's so true.
And if you don't have that now, hopefully you'll have that for Monday, what levies we need to place on the ballot this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do have park and health coming up this year.
Okay.
And so I need to get that around right away. So I'll make that my my project immediately.
I just put a note, 2021 levies with a question mark. Okay, well, let's move on here where we have our comparisons.
Okay, yes, total budget. Yeah, obviously both revenues and expenditures are down from last year. Not surprising. General fund revenues are up mainly because of the BWC, and expenditures are down mainly because of the CARES Act. So that's that. Our revenue sources right in the middle of the page. Nothing too surprising. The property tax receipts were up for the year, which is also not surprising. Housing sales have been going very well. So we get about 18, almost 19,000 above last year, and that income tax transfers to the general fund.
Let me jump in and interrupt. Yeah, housing sales are going well and values are going up, but that's only reflected on the inside millage.
Mhm.
The 2 mills to the general fund and the 3/10 each to the police pension and fire pension. Because the other mills, you never get more than what you got that first year because they reduce the effective rate of the millage.
Mm.
So, we don't benefit in Ohio by inflation or increased value in sales on voted millage. So,
Okay.
yeah, the fact that we have 2 mills that come to the general fund, yes, that would look good there because as the values go up, that 2 mills, it's 2 mills on the absolute figure. On the other ones, it's whatever the voted millage is based on a reduced rate.
Okay. That makes sense.
Well, some would argue it doesn't make sense, but that's the
Oh
law.
yeah, well yeah, I'm saying it's crazy, but it's whatever they want to do.
Right.
Let's see what else in there. Income tax transfers down just shy of 55,000. County grants and aids are down a little bit, but that's not surprising because many of the times those are often one-time deals.
Well, the county grants and aids was because of our court wages. That was
Right.
that was the whole tobacco, but we got it straightened out. So
That's right.
yeah,
I remember. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that. Bah. Yeah.
that was a headache a year ago. But it's now.
That's right.
Perhaps we should be glad the county didn't ask for a refund of our overbilling.
Right.
So true. So true. Expenditures in the general fund wages, they're down about 6.25% in 2020 from 2019. If I recall, 2019 we might have had some retirements that had larger payouts, and I think that we've had some vacancies in 2020, particularly we've been down a police officer or two.
Yes.
So that's kind of why
We
the
received a verbal commitment to retire from 2 employees in police and fire, just FYI. So
I'll put that in for the budget this year. Capital improvements, we kind of talked about that already in the police and court. We discussed that a little bit. And the income tax. That's pretty much all I have for that page, unless anybody.
Okay, so let me. Who are the retirees?
It's Mike Paulo verbally told me he was going to,
Okay.
and then word of mouth, I was told John Majors plans to. Oh, sorry, there's a third one. Steve Hammer, supposedly word of mouth, told his supervisor he's going to retire this year too. I have not seen anything official from any of the pension retirement boards yet, though.
Okay, well, that's how it works is,
So it's all verbal right now. None of it's confirmed.
okay, the ball rolls out of Columbus to us. Okay,
All right. Next page discusses utilities again. We kind of gone through that. all funds wages is up about 2.5%, which is not surprising at all. Hospitalization is up 7.7%, which was a little high, but it's probably my fault because I have a family plan and I think Steve was just him. So that's my apologies to the city of Shelby for screwing up the hospitalization line item.
It
Not
wasn't.
you.
And he had a family plan too, FY.
Oh, well, then I don't know what it was.
True of me.
I'll make up for it this year, Brian.
Thanks. So that's about it for the middle there. The transfers from tax total were down about $85,000 in transfers to all of the
Mhm.
various funds from the tax fund. But luckily refunds were down down about 36,000, so that makes up for it a little bit, I guess. That's about it for that page. The next page just has the all of our bank accounts. It shows that just shy of 14.8 million in total funds, and nothing really significant has changed this month as far as investments or anything.
Okay.
That, and then the only page we haven't looked at is the Sitter Roush funds, which have ended up the year about a little less than $1,000, maybe $500 or so up from the beginning of the year. So we paid a few repair bills during the year. That was a bit, got a little bit of interest income. So
Okay.
sir is my report.
All right. Well, as soon as you get these reports that are, probably due by the end of this month, I know you're going to jump on the appropriations, and I'm sure that, department heads are probably working on those already.
Actually, Mr. Ensman has actually already gotten me his report, which is fabulous. I'm so thankful for that. I've reformatted the spreadsheet that we used, and so I'm pretty much ready to. Well, I have to drop in last year's net income numbers. I didn't want to do it until we close the books and such this week, and then I can start entering our assumptions for this year. So it is in process, believe it or not.
Good deal. Wonderful.
Well, if you've got the utilities plus street, the other two, big ones are police and fire. That's the, particularly when you think about electric, that's probably and then you get the municipal court, which is a big one too, but that takes care of a huge chunk of what needs to be done in the appropriations ordinance.
Yes, it does. I'm really, really happy to be where we are with that right now.
And of course, then, and we know that I don't even have to say this, that Amber is dogging people about outstanding purchase orders, and it's if there's ever an example of, and people tell us, you get accused of finding money all the time, particularly when you're in contract negotiations with labor, but the purest example of found money is canceling out a purchase order that's hanging out there. And because obviously we want to maximize the amount of money that we go to the budget commission and say, look, this is our carryover. This is our balance January 1. And by getting rid of the purchase orders, we increase that amount of money that's available, that's free and clear. So, all right. Anything else on the report here?
No, I can't think of anything.
All right, let's take a look at part 2 of the committee, and that's personnel matters. Mayor, we've heard about some potential retirements coming on. What else do you have for us?
Well, I don't know if I can add much to that. Chief Combs, I believe Amber he's been working on his budget as well, with anticipated losses that at various rates. So, and we all wish the best for a timely healing for Chief Combs at home at this point, but that doesn't mean he's not been working. I think the only other thing I would add, Councilman Gates, is I'm gonna really give kudos to our City Hall staff. Since the word came out that vaccinations are here, we have 200 doses. And we're just going to be sliding into that phase 1B on Tuesday. The phones really just have been ringing out here regularly. And everyone out here has just been helping one another to get the information we need. We're going to be setting appointments, probably starting tomorrow. And of course, we'll be having those vaccinations. The plans are out to the senior center from 12 to 4 on a daily basis until the vaccines run out, and then we'll restart as soon as possible. We're of course asking for everyone's patience. But I think the last count that I had, it was about 250 names on the list. Now these are ages, some are in their 60s and 70s, but a number of those are in their 80s, which would qualify for this first phase outside of phase 1A. Plans are this afternoon to, I think we have about 10 doses to give out to those who qualified in that phase 1A here in our city staff, mostly from the safety forces and the fire guys and EMTs. So then we'll be getting into the phase 1B here soon. But again, just everybody has been working together, and no department has ever been through this type of thing before. So we're all learning as we go. And again, I'm very thankful the ladies are all working together for this. So
Good.
We're hoping that everything will work together, good Lord willing, that Tuesday at 12 noon at the senior center, we'll be giving our first vaccination to the phase 1B in the city of Shelby, actually in any jurisdiction that comes to us, really.
Okay, good.
Mhm.
The police contracts, have they been signed yet? Where are we in there?
Supposed to talk to Mr. Baker by email. I would expect those signature pages here tomorrow.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just saying we could file that away for 3 years, but we can file it away till this fall when we have
Yes.
the reopener. But
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
sir.
We've talked quite a bit about workers' comp and the rates. I know enough about workers' comp to be dangerous. I'll be the first to admit, but what's our experience? Well, let me ask you this: if an employee is hurt on work, whatever, what's the process?
Well, Amber's our HR girl. I could defer to her. And I think overall this year, Amber, last year was a pretty good year for us, correct?
Yeah, they're all relatively minor claims. But typically if they're injured, obviously they go to the hospital and they tell them upon arrival that this is workers' comp. There's an incident report filed at the local department. So any witnesses to the incident will do an incident report as well. And of course, the employee that's involved in the incident, someone takes them to the hospital or whatever, they don't drive themselves, but the hospital knows to process it under workers' comp. So Vita, Ohio Health, wherever they go, they know to get that in right away. The very next day, I get notification, it arrives on a fax that there was an incident. So then I follow up with the department to see if to get a little bit more of the gaps filled in. So I determine, did they return to work exactly? Things of that nature. Because it's not always clear if there's any restrictions or how bad it was, on just by looking at the form. So I get a little bit of follow up then from the supervisor at that department. And then Kara's Works, who's now Sedgwick or whoever they think they are, they call me to certify the claim then, typically within 24 to 48 hours after it happens. And they just want to make sure that we certify that we as an employer are aware of it. They want the same questions I want. Did they return to work?
And who is
that-
this again?
The people that ultimately process the bills for it.
Okay,
They're Works, but they've changed their name. They've been merged. So Sedwig, I think is how you say it. But they will call to make sure that we certify the claim as the employer, because ultimately they're going to be the ones processing and paying the bills.
okay.
Yes.
So they're a third-party administrator.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're assigned to us by Ohio's workers' comp.
okay.
Yeah. So
Thank
Now-
you, Amber.
At one time, we had, I think he was an attorney in Mansfield.
Turkowski,
Yeah.
He-
What's his process in this?
he assists with like larger claims. I mean, he'll advise on larger claims, when they have to be settled and stuff. That's his role in it.
Okay,
Smaller claims like that there's not much more observation or ongoing treatment needed, where they're kind of just treated and released. We don't really use him for those. There's no reason to.
okay.
Yeah.
Because at one time I understood that every single workers' comp claim we had was going to him.
He might get copied on them automatically, but he doesn't. I don't hear from him unless it's a large claim.
I get, and in other words, and this may be going back to finance directors, that the city contested every single workers' comp claim.
I-
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't know that.
I'm not aware of that either,
And,
but
and, maybe that's, legend that someone is feeding to me. So, if it's, we know that accidents happen, and not through anyone's negligence, but, accidents happen. And, it does no one any good for the city to, contest
Yeah.
every single workers' comp claim that comes in.
Yeah, I would see the only reason not to contest if it wasn't actually during work, or on working premises. If they're trying to say it was work and it wasn't really, if they're on their way home or something.
Yeah.
So they're-
Fraud is another thing altogether.
Yeah, I mean, if it happened, it happened. I mean,
Right.
what it is,
Okay.
like it or not, that is what it is. So that's
Right.
my attitude with it, and I feel that's Brian and the mayor's attitude with it too.
Okay.
and I don't recall even, of course, this has been a crazy 2020, but I don't recall receiving any correspondence from Mr. Tarkowski or having any with him this year, but maybe you did, Amber. but-
Yeah, only on maybe a couple times on some outstanding larger stuff that we're, with Brian James,
We dealt with some stuff from prior years with him,
So
but
that-
nothing like current claims.
Apparently I wasn't copied on those. This is okay.
You lucked out.
You're more than capable, both of you.
Okay. Mayor, anything else as far as personnel? How many openings do we have in police and fire? He asked cautiously.
Well, none in fire at this point. I think one officer in the police, I believe, one
Mhm.
patrol.
One vacancy for a patrol officer.
Yes, sir.
And that was who left?
That was Chadwell. He was hired in April. He lasted 6 months. He just.
Oh,
left.
yeah, okay. All right. Wouldn't it be wonderful to go, 6 weeks without a vacancy and then to have both stars align and have no vacancies in both departments at the same.
Right.
We
Right.
should be so lucky, right?
You're right.
Says the guy who doesn't believe in luck, right? So
You're right.
it's providence.
It
So
is.
he says seriously. So, okay. Well, what a roller coaster we've been on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do want to thank everybody. The first year's always rough, and it was definitely something else this year. So thank you guys all for helping me get through all of this. As I'm still, and I will forever be learning the ropes, I'm sure. But it's been an interesting experience, and I'm enjoying it. But wow, has it been something?
Well, as we know, and probably what affects us more is the Ohio General Assembly as opposed to the Congress. The General Assembly can change any law any way it wants to on any day of the year. And just as soon as you think you know what's going on and it's comfortable, the rules change. It's not like a football game where we have the rule book here. When the game begins, it's going to be the same rule book. At the end of the fourth quarter. Not so with government. So.
Mhm. Mhm.
All right, my friends, if there's nothing else, I will adjourn this meeting at 3:21 p.m.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good afternoon,
All right.
everyone.
That's
Take
good.
care,
Good
everyone.
call.